Hey everybody, it's my birthday. Well, it was yesterday. So before we get started, I wanted to show you this year's spectacular card from the uber talented Lori Taylor. I highly recommend you pause the video for a second and take in all the hilarious details. Okay, let's get started on this week's project. So I have some curly maple and some not quite so curly maple, and I'm gonna make a cake stand. This is gonna be kind of a little bit of a prototype. I have a 11-inch glass dome that I want to make a really big, nice one. This piece of wood is not quite big enough to fit that, so I'll use this as a little bit of a practice. I didn't bother planing the rough saw and lumber down. This is kiln dried, and I've had it for, God, probably 15 years at least. I did joint the edges and then glued those together, and I didn't really book match this one. I did book match these. When I glued these blanks up, these all came from the same board, and I book matched them. Hold up, that's not quite right. When I glue up blanks, I try to make nice grain matches. It's not really book matching, it's more like mirroring. So I lay out the board and I make the marks where I'm going to cut it, and then I draw some little shapes so I know which ends went together. And then when I go to glue them up, they basically get folded up like an accordion and glued in that orientation. And then you have kind of a nice matching grain pattern. So that should look pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do is find the center of this and then mark out the biggest circle I can, whack the corners off. So I'm just gonna find the center-ish. And I guess I could just go from the center of that. I don't know if that's actually a good idea or not, though. That's probably fine. We'll do that. We'll just go here. Glue is stronger than wood, right? Right. So after I glued these up, I ran this side through the jointer, and then I just flushed off the ends so that when I put this in, I've got something flat. I think I tried to make this square-ish. It's close enough. Alright, so there-ish, and there-ish. I'm gonna do this a little bit strange because it's kind of thin. I'm gonna put it between centers and then cut a mortise in the back, except that even though my 50mm jaws are dovetailed for use in expansion mode, I'm not going to dovetail them because the tenon on this is going to go into this when the cake stand is done. So I don't want it to be, I don't want the space around it. Although I suppose I could fill that with glue. Yeah, it's probably better if I don't. I don't think that that's going to be an issue to hold this piece of wood, and I should be able to keep the tailstock up most of the time, so I'm gonna give it a whirl. I know people do that. I've never done it. I've always put the dovetail on it, but we'll see. So first thing I'm gonna do is get, it doesn't matter which thing I do first. We'll do this first. Alright, so I'm just gonna use this, and I have no idea if it makes any difference which way I go here, as far as up or down. I don't think so, so I'll just use this for the front. Okay. So the reason I didn't just go ahead and base joint and then plane these pieces before I glued them together was because it's a little bit of a thin piece to start with. I didn't want to lose any more thickness than I had to. I figured it would be better to be able to take that off on the lathe while I'm turning, and then I wouldn't end up, with it being too thin or something. Hindsight being what it is, next time I will definitely at least plane them, even if I don't completely flatten them out, just because I had a lot of wobble going on here until I got the front and the back flattened out. And I think that caused me a little bit more vibration than I was really happy about. I think the little bit of thickness that I would have lost in planing the rough sawn lumber flat is probably well worth it just being a more stable piece to start with. You can see it wobbling there pretty bad on the back. I'm creating a little recess or indentation here, and that's just so that when you're holding the cake stand, it gives your fingers some place to sort of rest naturally and gives you better grip on it. I got that idea from one of the women that I follow on Instagram. Her Instagram channel is Firethorn Woodworks, and she does a lot of cake stands and stuff, and I thought that was a really good idea, so I implemented that in this one. Like a lot of wood turners, I'm relatively terrified of the skew, but I am determined to keep working at it and learning how to do some of the things. I can't do a planing cut. I have not gotten the hang of that yet, but whatever this cut is called is working pretty well. Now the next question is, what do I want to do here design-wise? Because I also have another one, and I wonder, if this would be better shorter. Let's see. Doesn't seem too bad, does it? Okay. How about that one? Well, that's just about right, isn't it? Okay. Well, maybe we try that. Ha! I'll be damned. That's friggin' perfect. I would have just drilled the mortise on the drill press with a Forstner bit, but my throat isn't quite deep enough to get it in the center of this board, and I couldn't use the Forstner bit on the lathe because I had it between centers. So after I chiseled out the little nub that was left, I used a firm sanding pad to try to flatten out the rest of the bottom. After I got the front side flattened out mostly, I had to go back and retrue the underside of the plate. I sanded the back side before I finished flattening the front side, and I honestly don't remember why. I can't fit the drill between the headstock and the workpiece, so I'm using the inertia sander. Now, for the most challenging part of this. I'm gonna make this thing work. Damn it. I'm gonna finish cleaning up the middle with my bowl gouge. I think that my regular bowl gouges have a 60-degree bevel on them. And the bottom of the bowl gouge has, I think it's a 70-degree bevel angle, and it has a really short bevel. It's supposed to be really good for going across the bottom of large bowls and for platters, making things really flat. I'm getting a lot of vibration out toward the edge, and that doesn't have anything to do with the gouge that I'm using. That's just that I'm getting a lot of vibration out towards the edge. I just have a really hard time maintaining bevel control with this particular tool. This is actually going better than it usually does for me, but I wonder if maybe part of my issue with this is that I tend to hold the handle of the tool down nearer my hip, which puts the entire length of it on a bit of an uphill angle. I wonder if I raised my right hand a little bit and presented the tool at closer to a 90-degree angle coming across, if that would make it any easier for me. Any of you guys that do use this tool successfully, what do you think? Does that seem like an option worth trying? Oi. I tend to start on the heel and then slowly raise the tool until the bevel actually starts cutting and then go from there. And I'm using my hand just to hold the tool down. I'm not steering with that hand, but it is definitely something that has a technique to it, and I'm not getting it yet. The fact that it's lower in the middle than it is around the edges is not unexpected, since I didn't really use the gouge out there on the edges of the plate. I'm going to use the technique that Stuart Batty uses to reduce vibration, and I'm going to come back with a negative rake scraper and a paper towel and hold the backside of the plate with the same amount of pressure that I'm using with the scraper. And that helps dampen some of the vibration, and that should let me get this edge smoothed out. Well, that wasn't too bad. I'll go ahead and sand this up, and then we'll work on the base. I sanded it through 400, and I blew it off, and then I put some denatured alcohol on it, and then a coat of 1 pound cut shellac. And once that dried, I cut that back with a gray Scotch-Brite pad, and now I'm going to do my normal finishing routine here, which is to start with the Axe Abrasive paste and do that on the front and the back. And I'm going to follow that up with Brad's Abrasive sanding paste, again on the front and the back. For the top coat on this, I'm going to use the Axe Restoring and Polish paste. I really want to do the entire finishing process and the buffing all at the same time. So in order to do the little bit that's technically kind of behind where the chuck is, I have a popsicle stick that I'm going to wrap the paper towel around, and that will stick up far enough that I can hold the paper towel with my finger and then press the popsicle stick up against the workpiece enough to buff it, but my fingers aren't near the chuck. So if anything bad happened, it would just grab the popsicle stick and my fingers are safely out of the way. I don't want anything too fancy for the design of the base on this one. It's pretty chunky, and I like that. I really just wanted it to be kind of a soft taper from the top to the bottom. There's not a ton of figure in the wood that I used to make the base with, but you're not going to see that a whole lot. In the top of the cake plate, the curly maple figure is just fantastic, and I don't want to take away from that with any beads or coves or really any embellishment of any kind on the base. The stickers that I ordered, there's a couple there on my lathe that are white background with black lettering. I ordered some in 2 inches and 1 inches that are black with a white lettering, and so I cut a groove in the bottom of the base for the sticker to go. I did the same finishing process, Axe Abrasive paste, Brad's Abrasive paste, and Axe polishing paste. And there's my first cake stand. I'm pretty happy with that. I definitely learned some things. I'll do a couple of things different next time. I have still the piece that I showed you guys earlier that's going to have the other half of this base that I haven't finished yet. I did a much smaller cake stand to kind of go along with that one, and you'll see that here in a second. I put a little bit of a lip around that. That's maybe more of a mini cake stand or a cupcake stand, a big cupcake stand. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Now I'm going to go eat a birthday cupcake. You all be safe out there. On your marks. Get set. Bake!